it along here, gang. Let's talk about one more position, and that is defensive tackle. All right, defensive tackle. Let me drop this down, go back to the article. We're working overtime today. My gosh, a lot of jumping back and forth. So back to our athletic threshold grouping here. Let's go defensive tackle. Here are the athletic thresholds for defensive tackle. Minimum threshold for height is 6'1 and a half. However, ideally, they're looking for 6'3 to 6'5 for their defensive tackle. So 6'1 and a half is the minimum threshold for defensive tackle. Weight. If somebody's in the 280s, like there was a player out of Navy, and the other day somebody said, oh, nope, he's too light. Okay, well, we've drafted defensive tackles at 287 before. Are we going to say 4 pounds is going to be too light? We can't get a couple cheese curds in that cat? If he's higher on our board, I'd much rather have the better football player from what the tape says as opposed to, oh, no, he's lacking 3 pounds of weight. I can't subscribe to that. Ideally, however, they do like 300 to 315 pounds, okay? Arm length, 32 inches. Okay, 32 inches is the minimum threshold for defensive linemen. They want them to be able to beat the offensive lineman to the point of attack. Okay, remember what we talked about with threshold arm length at offensive line. Arm length for offensive line, 33 and a quarter, right? Well, they're saying when it comes to defensive tackle, 32 inches is the minimum threshold. However, 33 plus is ideal for the Packers. 40-yard dash, 5.15. Although it's preferred, who wouldn't prefer to have an elite 40-yard dash in the sub-5s for a big old 300-pound defensive tackle, right? 10-yard split, 175 is the minimum. Ideally, 168 is the 10-yard split. And the 10-yard split, guys, real simple. When they run the 40-yard dash, they laser time segments of the 40-yard dash. So you got the overall 40-yard dash, okay? And you got the 10-yard split. And I think what's the other one? A 20-yard split, I believe it is, right? So the 10-yard split is showing you acceleration, how quick they get through the first 10 yards. You don't need an offensive lineman to run 40 yards. How many plays are you hoping your offensive lineman has to run 40 yards? You know, you want them to handle the point of attack, and your running back hit the hole and gone, and the offensive lineman is out of the equation now, right? So again, that's why 10-yard split I think is way more important than obviously 40-yard dash. Now, why is 40-yard dash important with offensive linemen? Footwork. If they've got a good 40-yard dash, it typically means that they've got fast feet. That's what that means, okay? That means that they can get 1 foot down quicker. Think of a kick step, right? When you do a kick slide and you're pass blocking it at the left tackle or right tackle position, your footwork has to be quick. Sometimes that can be measured within a 40-yard dash, or at least maybe it's more of a tiebreaker as opposed to the 10-yard split. That's obviously more important, especially if you're wanting to get into duo, right? Think of the 10-yard split on a duo run call where it's double-double, vertical power, right? So you go double-double, you're double team at the point of attack, and you need that quick burst, get to the next level, and peel off and take a backer out of the play or a spur safety. Those are the things that the 10-yard split plays a big role in. Now, explosion grade, remember, is vertical jump and broad jump. Vertical jump-wise, the minimum threshold for the Packers have been 29 inches. The ideal preferred threshold is 31.5 inches, okay, plus. The broad jump, 9-foot broad jump, but ideally a 9'4" plus is the preferred. Okay, so again, the broad jump being a 9 foot is the minimum threshold. 3 cone drill for agility and obviously footwork. 790 is the minimum. A sub 765 is ideal for the defensive tackle position, right? And in terms of getting off the ball and being able to take control of an offensive lineman, when you're talking about the footwork, right? We were talking about the kick slide just now on the opposite side with offensive linemen and their ability to be able to move their feet and get out there, right? Well, with defensive tackle, the same thing kind of applies. Whoever has the quicker feet, the longer arms, and the more punch to their more power to their punch, right? The pass rush moves, yes, they matter. They do. But if you can't rush with power, Greg Cosell 101, if you can't rush with power, you're not going to make it in the NFL, okay? You've got to be able to rush with power. And then you can work, if you've got speed and agility like Micah Parsons in combination with power, that's awesome. That's a slam dunk pick. Those guys are usually not available outside of the top 5, right? But yeah, you want power. If you had to choose between power or quickness at defensive tackle, hands down, it's power for me. I could care way less about how quick your feet are if you can just take a guard and a center and push them right into the lap of the quarterback, right? That's what Walter Nolan did so well in college. That's what Jalen Carter did so well in college. And again, I don't see it at that level with Peter Woods, but many people are saying Peter Woods is very, very comparable to Jalen Carter. I think it's more about the height and weight than anything else. But and then of course when you get into the RAS, 8+ is the minimum there for the Packers, and then the ideal / preferred threshold is 9.3 plus. Guys, they take very, very serious in Green Bay that RAS score when it comes to defensive tackles. Now, when I say RAS, I don't think that Gutey has the RAS stuff pulled up. He may have RAS off to the side, but they've got their own version of RAS is what we're talking about. RAS is a tool that we can use, okay, that probably best mimics what the Packers probably use in terms of athletic thresholds. And they may only be keen on 3 or 4 specific things as opposed to the entire relative athletic scorecard. But that's kind of what we use to determine. And of course, you can cross-check this stuff, right, with what Math Bomb's done over the years. And you can see that the Packers love 8+ RASs. Now, let's talk about past defensive tackles here, right? Explosion over agility. Just a couple notes, key notes from this little breakdown. Unlike the offensive line where the 3 cone is king, the Packers prioritize the 10-yard split and broad jump for defensive tackles. Again, quickness off the ball and explosion. They want immediate get off to disrupt the pocket. All right. The Devonte Wyatt profile. You guys know when they took Devonte Wyatt, he was a little bit older, and all the draft gurus were like, they'll never draft Wyatt. He's too old. Lo and behold, they drafted him, right? Now, they don't talk about that now. They just move on to the next year and say they'll never draft him. He's too old, but it is what it is. Wyatt's RAS, guys, was a 9.59 according to this report. It's the blueprint for their interior pass rushers. Compact, but with elite speed and jumping numbers. Again, explosion, quickness, agility, quick twitch, and you got to be able to handle the point of attack. Devonte Wyatt is a good pass rusher. Good to very good pass rusher. The run defense is what struggled there, right? Now, the big citrus outlier, while they prefer sub 315 pounds for mobility, they will break the weight threshold for unique space eaters like TJ Slayton or the 2026 prospect, Dominic Big Citrus Orange. Where's my boy Chris in the chat? I know he's in here. Look, T'Vondre Sweat son. There you go. Perfect example, right? Perfect example. T'Vondre Sweat, stud of a pick. People were like, oh, he's not going to be quick enough. He's too big. He's out of shape. Been a great football player. Needs to stay healthy, but been a great football player. So here's Big Citrus, Chris, your boy. So, or the 2026 prospect, Dominic Orange, provided they still show functional explosiveness. So it's important, that last part, right, Chris? If he goes out there, right, Big Citrus, if he goes out there at the combine and he shows explosiveness, you're going to see him probably start to skyrocket. Now, where do we got Big Citrus? We've got him number 99 on our board last I checked. So would you be willing to take him at 84? If you like him enough, yeah. Maybe the Packers have him at 54, right? And we've got him at 99. They'll obviously run the card at 84. So again, I'm not saying my board is perfect. Our board is perfect. I am saying, though, that if Gutey's board lines up to take Big Citrus, hell, even at 52, he may have a 30 grade on him. I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me because our boards haven't matched up in the past. Unfortunately, our board has been a little more accurate here recently than where Gutey is actually taking guys, right? So we'll see how that continues to shake out. So that's a quick look at the profiles. Now let's jump over one last time to our draft board and give you guys an idea of some of the top prospects at defensive tackle. We roll back up. So at defensive line, again, it's lit up green because it's a tier 1 position of importance. At the top of the list, you've got Caden McDonald at a 25.3. You've got Caleb Banks at 28.6. Peter Woods at 34.0. Now, people are going, Clayton, Peter Woods is your third best defensive tackle. Why are you down on him? I'm not down on Peter Woods. I'm just not. It's going to be really, really hard for people to sell me that Peter Woods is as good as Walter Nolan was. If Peter Woods is as good as Jalen Carter was. Jalen Carter was like a top 5 prospect on our board. He sank for personal issues, right? Off the field stuff, so to speak. A little bit of on the field stuff too. You seen it this year. He got kicked out of a game week 1 because he spit in a player's face, right? So that's why he kind of sank a little bit. But I just don't see Peter Woods in the ballpark again on February 23rd. He may go to the combine and impress me and come out and I'll be like, cow, this dude's an athletic freak. Holy cow, yeah. Now I can see the comps. But as it sits right now, the tape does not show me Peter Woods playing against lesser talent in the ACC as opposed to Walter Nolan in the SEC, right? and Jalen Carter in the SEC as well. Like, I'm just not sold on Peter Woods that much. I'm really not. Now, Kristen Miller is one of my draft crushes. So I've got Peter Woods higher than Kristen Miller. If I had to pick between Peter Woods and Kristen Miller, I'm probably going Peter Woods, okay, because if you're sticking to the board. But when we did the breakdown the other day and I kind of talked about this, I can understand why people would like Kristen Miller better than Peter Woods. Why do I like Kristen Miller personally better than Peter Woods, even though he's higher on the board? Let me explain. We talk about ascending players, right? Let's start with Peter Woods. In 2023, Peter Woods was the 12th highest graded defensive lineman, defensive tackle in all of college football. All right, that's solid, borderline top 10. Kristen Miller was 303. Oh my God, that's horrible, right? Well, look at this. In 2024, Peter Woods dropped from 12th to 26th, while Kristen Miller at Georgia jumped from 303 all the way to 33. All right, well, still, Peter Woods is the better football player there, right? He's got the better grade, according to PFF. Look at 2025. He dropped to 206, all right? And Kristen Miller went from 33 to 18. So what you're seeing with Kristen Miller is ascension. He gets better every single year in college football. The opposite with Peter Woods, according to PFF, he's gotten a little bit worse every year. Now, again, can an NFL coaching staff pull this player from 2023 out of Peter Woods as opposed to 2025 Peter Woods? Hell yeah. And that's why maybe you like him a little bit more. Now, the reason he's higher on our board, Peter Woods, is because the consensus big board had him at 12. They had Kristen Miller at 33. The PFF big board had him at 9. We had him at 30. And again, this is as soon as the college football season wrapped up, before all the hype trains started. Peter Woods now is probably through the freaking roof even more. I don't know. I try not to look at it as much once the board begins to get built. Now, let's go to our head scouts here. All right, Daniel Jeremiah. Daniel Jeremiah has Peter Woods at 34, Kristen Miller at 37. Okay, so he says they're right there in the same tier. However, Peter Woods, I would give the nod to. Tankathon had Peter Woods 16th, and Kristen Miller 42nd. So that's pulling Kristen Miller down. If you remove Tankathon, Kristen Miller probably surpasses Peter Woods here. It'd be real close, but there's only 1.8 points between the two, okay? So again, Tankathon thinks the world of Peter Woods. Daniel Jeremiah had him at 34. Tankathon had him at 16. Dane Brugler has him at 33 and Kristen Miller at 37, the same spot as Daniel Jeremiah. So that's how you come up with the 35.8 score. That's going to be two names. I'm interested to see who goes first, Peter Woods or Kristen Miller in this year's draft. That's going to be really, really interesting to me. Next on the list is Lee Hunter. Lee Hunter's a 41.1. If he's there at 52, I'm okay with that pick, although it wouldn't be my top choice. It would make sense with the board, I'm sure. Darrell Jackson, the Packers have already met with him. We got an 86.0. Look for him maybe in the 84th pick, potentially. There's Big Citrus. We've got Big Citrus at 90.0, a little bit of a reach. We've got him in the 99 spot overall on our board. He'd be a little bit of a reach at 84, but you could probably sell me on that pick. Dante Corleone, 104.6. Gracen Halton, 120.6. The Packers met with Caleb Proctor, defensive tackle out of southeastern Louisiana. He's got a 122.5. And then Skylar Gill Howard is a name that we keep drafting late in the draft. We'll see if the threshold checks out as we get closer to the draft, but a 123.8 is what we have on him. Now, if we go down the list, the Packers also met with Landon Robinson from Navy. That's the guy we were talking about. We got a 198.0 grade on him, but again, an ascending player. 696 at his position in 23, jumped all the way to 338 in 24, all the way to 72 in 25. And I love my military academy players, man. Those dudes are just cut from the right freaking cloth, right? They're ass kickers is essentially what that means. 252 at the consensus big board, 270 on the PFF big board. That's what's bringing him down. So the Packers may be looking at him as kind of a priority undrafted free agent at the end of this draft, if that makes sense. So that's a quick breakdown of the defensive tackle position. If you guys are watching this back later, let me know in the comments. How do you feel about the defensive tackle spot and the players that we just mentioned specifically? Is there a player you like the most? Is there maybe one of these guys I'm higher on than you are? Let us know in the comments what you think. Hit that like button for us. Hit subscribe. Click the bell icon so you catch all the future live streams. Everybody in here that's live right now, if y'all would, do me a big favor.